me well and see me well before I keep going. Let me adjust the camera here. It's a very sunny afternoon today. Let me open up the chat on this phone so I could see you guys better. Oh, it's reinstalling. Really? I really had to do an update right now when I'm out here. 1 second, guys, as I figure this out. I did not want a green screen. All right. I'm struggling a little bit right now because I have a second phone that shows the chat, but the YouTube app is installing right now an update, so I can't open it to see the chat, and it doesn't show the chat when I'm live either on this phone. So 1 second, guys, while I get this fixed. Actually, I think the install just fixed. All right, let me see. Hold on, trying to open the chat here. Sorry for getting started a little late. All right. No, this isn't good. Because then it's echoing in here. What is going on? I've done this before. I just want to see the chat. That's it. Hold on, guys. Having technical difficulties right now. So sorry. All right. I see the chat. Can someone please let me know in the chat if you could hear me and see me correctly before I keep going here? Okay. There's a delay between a couple seconds between when you enter in your message in the chat and when I see it here, but we're all good. We're good and going now. All right, so welcome everyone to my live garden class. I try to do one of these every month. I try. It all depends on my schedule, what's going on in the garden, what's happening, that kind of thing. So there's not a set schedule for these classes. It's kind of random. If you want to find out when the next one is, the date, the time, the topic, the best thing is to sign up for my garden email group, email list. There's a link in the description. That way you make sure you don't miss when I post that there's an upcoming class or something. So yeah, check out the description. Just before we start this class, I put links to pretty much everything I could think of that I might mention, whether it be products, supplies, treatments, whatever kind of stuff that I thought might be helpful for you guys or that I might mention. Today's topic is organic gardening. We're continuing on with the organic gardening theme. This one is about organic plant diseases and how to kind of identify them, prevent them, and treat for them, all being organic. Last month's class was also about organic gardening, but it was pest control and management. So if you missed that one, I'm pretty sure you can go back into my live tab and watch that. There's a lot of great information. All the pests and diseases are waking up. It's springtime now. They're waking up from their winter dormancy. So it's good to be prepared. That is the best way you're going to be successful gardening, is to be prepared for these things. They're coming, so you might as well be prepared for them and have your treatments and stuff ready. So just a couple announcements. I am having a spring seed and plant sale on my website. No codes, no discount codes required. It ends tomorrow because March 20th is the official day of spring. So I thought, let's celebrate a little bit. It's time to plant as much as you can and take hold of the season. If you're passing your last spring frost date now in April, you definitely need to be planting up all your spring crops. But if you're a hot climate gardener like me, usually people who are in tropical or subtropical areas of the United States, you should have been spring gardening like in January and February. Right now, I am harvesting like the last bit of my spring crops, and I'm going to be now transitioning to summer. We're basically like a season ahead. And I bring this up because in some of my more recent like YouTube videos, especially the March garden guide, a lot of people were like, why does your garden look so lush and all this stuff is growing, but mine doesn't? And I'm like, don't compare to me. I'm like literally seasons ahead, months ahead compared to the rest of the country. So that's good, because then you could see what I do and then get ready and kind of do that in your garden when your planting time comes. But yeah, so I'm just enjoying the last bit of the most amount of spring I would get here in Florida before things really start to heat up. By April, it's summertime. If you're in a state north of me, your summertime is like now for me. That's probably what it is. So anyways, yeah, so there's a spring seed and plant sale. And if you didn't know, I also have a seed club. It's a subscription where I hand pick different seeds for the upcoming season, my favorites or things that I know will grow really well for you. And it gets kind of loud. There's cars and stuff. I'm in a neighborhood, so sorry about that. But yeah, the seed club, I just shipped out the summer pack because I ship a season ahead so that you have your seeds early if you need to like sow them indoors and that kind of thing. So if you were subscribed up until then, you got that summer delivery. It should be arriving to you today, tomorrow, within the next few days. And then the next time I'll be shipping out will be the fall delivery, and that will be for everyone subscribed by June 20th, I think, like that, before I ship it out. So all of that information you can find on my website, jarrahsgarden.com. But yes, let's get on with the class. I try to keep these about an hour long, but I tend to always go over. Today's topic, like I said, is organic plant disease management, how to identify them, how to prevent a lot of them. Prevention is probably key when you're organic gardening anyways. And so we're going to go through all of that and kind of give you a peek into what I do here in my garden to garden organically. I'm not 100% organic, but I would say like 98%. There are a few instances, mostly when it comes to like fertilizer, where I would use something not organic. Like if I'm growing corn, it requires a lot of nitrogen fertilizer, and I can't find an organic source that's high enough. So that's one of the instances where I will use something not organic, synthetic, but that's pretty much it. All my treatments, everything is organic. I'm not like certified organic or anything like that, but that's just what I do personally in my garden. And if I'm in Florida with all the diseases and pest pressure that we have here and I can do it, then any of you can do it. You can all garden organically. As we go through this class, I will try to stop periodically and answer your questions. Usually there's tons of questions. I try my hardest not to miss them. That's why I have the second phone here, so I could scroll through the comments better. If you ask a question, please put your state and your garden zone so I can kind of gauge more or less the best way to answer that question for you. And if I miss your question, I'm sorry. I try my hardest not to miss the questions, but sometimes it's so much. So if I miss your question, feel free to send me an email, info@jarrahsgarden.com, and I will get back to you with the answer. But let's get started. The first thing I want to discuss are common plant diseases and their causes. I want you to think of plant diseases like the ones that we get, the ones that humans get. Oh, I'm sorry. I see a question here real quick from Marie Telfort, that the plant behind me, you have it. What is his name? This is the giant yellow Brazilian passion fruit. I have a couple different vines. They're massive. They're lush and green almost year round for me. I do sell seeds for this on my website. It's kind of a rare variety to find, and it does produce these massive, like bigger than a softball size passion fruit. It's definitely one of my favorite things to grow. So that's what that is. But yes, I want you guys to think of plant diseases like we do kind of with humans. That is that these diseases are caused by some sort of a pathogen, whether it be a bacteria, a virus, a fungus, or molds. Molds are a type of fungus. And the treatments to deal with them are kind of the same too, right? When you get sick and you have, I don't know, a bacterial infection, whatever, for example, hydrogen peroxide is something that can be applied to destroy that bacteria. It also destroys funguses, molds, and a lot of viruses too. So I use that a lot in my garden to treat for the majority of these diseases because it will kill those pathogens, sanitize kind of the plants and that kind of thing. So almost the same kind of concept here. So some common fungal diseases that you will most likely see. Every gardener gets this stuff. Powdery mildew, number one probably thing that I get in my garden because I'm in a very humid environment. It's a fungus, and funguses and molds like humid, wet conditions. So if it's wet, if it's been raining a lot, if you get hit by a hurricane or something like that, or it's rainy season, you can expect to get powdery mildew. It's a fungus, it's going to start spreading. Dampening off, which is a big issue when you're starting seeds. It's a mold that grows on the surface of the soil of where you sowed your little seedling, and it will chew or rot out, I don't know, the base of the stem of that seedling, and the thing just dies and falls over. So that is another type of fungus. Anthracnose, I commonly see this on fruit trees. They have like a powdery black sooty mold type stuff. Anthracnose is usually in that too. So that's another type of fungus, and if you don't take care of it, it can disrupt production because it contaminates or whatever the flowers, and then if you don't have proper flowers on your fruit trees, then the fruit isn't going to form. So that is another type of fungus. Bacterial diseases, probably the most common thing is bacterial leaf spot. There are so many different kinds of leaf spot. You got black spot, you got yellow spot. I mean, they affect pretty much any kind of veggie crop you're going to grow, especially like tomatoes and stuff like that. Oh, I forgot to mention blight is a fungus as well. Blight, I get that every single time I grow my tomatoes. So it's a fungus. It can be treated with hydrogen peroxide or any kind of organic treatment that will target a fungus. Bacterial leaf spots, yellow spots, all that stuff. I give up trying to identify exactly which kind it is. If you have a spot on the surface of the leaves of your plant, it's most likely some kind of bacteria, mold, whatever. Instead of getting frustrated and trying to identify exactly which one, just get to the treatment. Use that hydrogen peroxide spray, and I'm going to show you guys how I spray my plants too. But use that hydrogen peroxide spray to kill the fungus, bacteria, blight, all of that stuff. Instead of investing a lot of time trying to figure out like the cause of it. If it's on the surface of the leaves, it's most likely some kind of fungus, mold, bacteria. Also, there is tomato wilt. So tomato wilt it can be caused by a bacteria or a virus. There's different kinds. But tomato wilt is something that is systemic. So it's not on the surface of the leaves where you can just spray something and treat for it. It's systemic. It's inside of the plants. There's no treatment for that. So what does that look like? If your tomato plants look perfectly healthy one day and you come out into the garden the next day and they're just all of a sudden wilted, the soil's not dry, you don't see a pest damage or something like that, most likely it's one of those either bacterial or viral types of wilts. It's the pathogen itself lives and inoculates itself in the soil. So it's kind of hard to treat for if it's in the soil. And it goes up into the roots of the plant, into the insides of the plant. No cure for that. The best thing for you to do is to yank out that whole plant and dispose of it. Don't compost with that material or anything like that. You want to get rid of that pathogen and prevent it from further spread in your garden. So that is a little bit of a different thing. It's not something as simple as just spraying your plants and it's cured, right? It's a systemic thing. So there are a couple systemic types of diseases that just work a lot differently. Those I would focus my attention on trying to identify which one so that you can figure out the best way to combat it. And lastly, we have the viral diseases like mosaic virus. There's cucumber mosaic virus. It's just weird discoloration on the leaves. It's very, very common. I get it every time. But that's a virus. It's caused by a virus. And again, the tomato wilt, the virus version of that too. So it's kind of important to know, if you can, you know, what kind of thing you're dealing with so you can choose the appropriate treatment. But just like when you're curing a person, right? They have an injury, a scratch, a wound or something like that. Good hygiene is super important because you want to keep it clean, prevent further spread or infection. Same thing with your garden. You want to practice good hygiene. Every time you prune out disease, decaying, dead foliage or that kind of stuff from your garden, do not compost with that unless you can guarantee without a doubt that you keep your compost pile at, I don't remember the specific temperature that it has to be kept at, but it's pretty high. That way you can ensure that the heat that compost pile is generating is killing off those pathogens. If you cannot guarantee that you're keeping it that hot, do not compost with that stuff. It will spread spores, bacteria, whatever, all over your garden when you start distributing that compost out. A lot of these pathogens live and spread in the soil. They jump onto your plants and then they spread on the plants. But the majority of them, the source of them is they're coming from the soil. So yeah, if I prune my tomatoes, I throw that stuff in the trash. I do not compost with it. So these diseases spread usually by environmental conditions when those conditions are favorable. So fungus, molds, bacteria, that kind of thing, they really like to proliferate and spread in high humidity when there's poor air circulation between your plants, because that means the leaves are not able to dry off quickly. So then the spores kind of linger there and then they start reproducing and spreading and the population explodes. Or there's like just excessive moisture. And there are some vectors that spread these diseases, which are pests. Some pests, like for example, aphids, when they pierce your plants and suck the juices out of them, can cause or transmit certain diseases to your plants too. So it's important that you also practice organic pest control, which I discussed in last month's class, and you should be able to rewatch that if you missed it. But yeah, you want to keep those pests under control because a lot of them can transmit these diseases as well. So let me take a little break here and check the comments really quick. Okay, I guess we're good. Wanika, if I'm saying that correctly, you're in zone 9 around the Houston area and the pest pressure is real here. I used to live in Texas. I actually lived in Galveston for like 3 years, and I was gardening there too. And yeah, the pest pressure is insane and it gets really hot and dry in Texas. Whereas Florida, it gets really hot and wet. It's just gross. It's gross. It's very different. My pest pressure here is definitely a lot more than what you experience in Texas. But again, like if I can do it, so can you. All right. So how to identify these disease symptoms? First off, you should be checking your garden every day. I walk out here multiple times a day. And it's not like I'm going through and carefully inspecting every single part of every single plant. But in general, if you walk through multiple times, you will notice, oh, that looks a little different today, or that I didn't notice that those spots yesterday, or whatever. You will notice these things. So yeah, walking around your garden, checking it is a great way to catch something when it gets started. You want to look at the leaf color and texture, because some of these diseases and things can cause the leaves to have odd shapes or like crinkle up and shrivel up, dry out, all kinds of things. And you want to inspect the soil moisture levels and root health, because if the soil is really moist, that also causes proliferation of a lot of these diseases. For example, when we get a lot of rain or a hurricane hits, I know those diseases are going to be spreading like crazy. And I used to have I still have rows of tomatoes here, but my rows of tomatoes, there was one hurricane that came through, dumped a whole bunch of water. I saw the first tomato of that row wilt like overnight. It definitely had that bacterial or virus tomato wilt. just wilted like that. A few days later, the next one wilted. A few days later, the next one wilted. So they get transmitted through the soil, especially when there's a lot of water. That water is moving through the soil, and then it carries those pathogens all over too, and it spreads and infects all of your plants. So when you get a hurricane or something like that, be prepared. I mean, there's not much you can do about the soil stuff, but I know that blight, for example, or the yellow spots are going to go crazy. And I'm going to start seeing them very soon. So I will start prevention and spraying with my hydrogen peroxide spray. You can also keep a garden journal. And that's really important because some of these pests and diseases only occur at specific parts of the year. All right, where it's more intense than others. And that's good to know. So you're also prepared ahead of time. By keeping a journal and just like kind of notating these things like, hey, you know what, it's the month of April and the blight is just started. I just started noticing it this year. That way next year you'll know, oh, April was when I started noticing that blight was starting to spread around my garden. So I should, keep out for, an eye out for that. And then the best thing is, then you can get on to disease prevention. So the best way to reduce the disease in your garden to begin with, especially if you're using organic products, is prevention. Organic products are not going to be as strong as some of these like commercial things. So when you're organic gardening, it's not just a one thing is the solution to everything type of deal. It's a combination of all these things working together. So yes, it's going to be a little bit more effort, but the results, I mean, the whole point why I started gardening and growing my own food is because I wanted to eat food that wasn't contaminated with or sprayed with a whole bunch of chemicals. So for me to now also spray my stuff with these synthetic chemicals and stuff, just there's no point then why I even started gardening. So for me, it's worth it. It's not hard doing all these things, practicing good hygiene, prevention, checking your garden every day. But you got to do it all like together to really nip these things early on. Hold on, I'm going to check the chat real quick. I hate that this closed on me. All right, I'm going through here. I have a outline because then if not, I forget to say things. All right, so let's talk a little bit about healthy soil practices. Like I said, soil is a little difficult because it's not like something you could just douse in some kind of treatment or whatever. It's the soil. But there is a couple things that you can do. Hold on, guys. I'm still trying to get back into the chat here. Gosh. I was going to pause to see if there's any questions. 1 second. It's finally coming up. I see another question from Marie that you received the seeds from my seed club today, and when should you start planting them? In the seed club, so I have a seed subscription service. I just shipped out the summer set. There's a card with a QR code, or you can type in the website if you prefer. Please go look at that right away. That is the very first thing you should be doing when you get your seed delivery, because there's an introduction video that's really important. I kind of review everything that you got, some ideas, tips, stuff like that, and how this all works. But with each and every seed included, there is a PDF like plant profile. It's a sheet that has like all the information you're going to need to know about growing it. There's a section called when and how to sow the seeds. Check that box for every single seed, because it will tell you if you need to direct sow the seeds right now, or if you need to sow seeds indoors, that kind of thing. So that is number one. So you know what seeds to plant now. Diamond Trail Ranch is asking, you got a Meyer lemon tree that was transplanted 2 days ago, and some of the leaves are yellowing. Can't talk today. Is it going through shock? It could be. Transplant shock is very common. especially if the root system was disturbed a lot while you were transplanting it. But also, like, the number one cause of yellowing is like overwatering or underwatering. Most of the time it's overwatering. So citrus trees and fruit trees in general, they like the soil to dry out a little bit in between watering. It's funny because I had somebody ask me something very similar. Maybe it was you. It was like through email or something. But I was saying this person was using a water meter. You know, like on Amazon, they have these like meters that you stick in the soil and it'll tell you if it's too dry and you should water it. I was telling them not to use that because those meters are like not scientifically proven to like actually be accurate or anything like that. The best thing you can do is the finger test. So stick your finger in the soil. If it's dry to your second knuckle, then it could use some watering. And then after just like years and years of gardening, I can literally just look at it and I know, okay, yeah, it needs some watering. This person also had their plants like on an automatic schedule. I don't like the schedule part of it. I use automatic watering. I have drip irrigation all through my garden, but it's not programmed to go off like every other day or every Monday or whatever. It goes off when I tell it to turn on because I know that the soil is dry and my plants actually need the water. But I know too, that's hard for people. It's hard for you to remember maybe to turn it off. So maybe having things on a schedule is more consistent, or better for you. But like the water levels change according to seasons. Summertime, the soil is going to dry out faster than like wintertime. So really you should be learning by your experience and working with the plants in the soil and being able to tell on your own if, you know, it actually needs to be watered. But yeah, overwatering is the number one cause of yellowing leaves, because the roots are probably starting to rot. And that means like nutrients and everything can't flow through the plant. So I would just check that and see if that's what's going on. Or otherwise, maybe it is going through transplant shock. I don't know what is up with my phones today, but all right, I'm still looking at it's hot. It is so hot that my iPhone here is like laggy because of the heat. So I don't have iPhones anymore. This is like an extra phone I just use for this. I have a Samsung that I use. I like Samsung better, especially for doing videos and stuff. Tamiko is asking what items were in my spring pack. I can't remember all of them because I was shipped way back in December at this point. But I don't re-ship the old packs. Like, that's it. Like, if you didn't get it, that's it. It's not available anymore. Every subscription delivery is different. It's based on what I have available, what did I like. Sometimes you even get stuff that I don't really offer on my websites. On my website, it might just be a little bit of seed that I had of something that I want to share with you guys only type of stuff. So it's very different every season. And pretty much only the people that got the spring pack would get all the information and guides and stuff that came with it. Wanda's asking, I have a papaya tree, and how do you protect it when it blooms from other animals or bugs or from falling off? Critters are tough. They're tough. Like, unless you fence in everything, you're not going to block out the deer. You're not going to block out rabbits or iguanas or that kind of thing. Squirrels are always going to get in. Raccoons, possums, that kind of thing. You can try netting, like, you know, fruit tree netting over your papaya trees if they're consistently a problem. If blooms fall off, there's nothing you can do about that. The blooms just fall off. Fruit trees and stuff and plants, if they can't support the production of the fruit, they will drop the blooms. Or if it's way too hot or their plant is stressed, maybe the soil's too dry, it's going to drop its blooms. It cannot support that production. Or maybe the plant is too young. I mean, there's a million reasons why the blooms would drop. And there's nothing really you can do except to try and keep conditions consistent so that plant won't, you know, drop the blooms. Like in the summer here, I don't grow tomatoes during the summer. And please, if you're in a subtropical, tropical climate, do not grow tomatoes during the summer. That is for everyone else, not for us. I grow mine fall, winter, and spring. Because in summer, I get days and days and days of 90, 95 degrees, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And the majority of tomatoes, their flowers will drop in those high temperatures. So even if you get that plant to survive all the pests and diseases that come with summer, it's not going to produce for you. So to me, there's absolutely no point in planting tomatoes during the summer for me. If you're a normal gardener that lives in a temperate, you might get snow or at least enough frost that things cool down significantly, and you notice like changes in the seasons, they're defined, then tomatoes are definitely a summer crop for you. But things are just very opposite here in places like Florida. That's why I started this YouTube channel, really to help my hot climate gardener friends, because most of the information out there is geared towards normal areas, temperate areas, more northern states, which is the majority of the United States, not us down here where things are literally like the opposite. But I have stuff here for everybody, right? The way that you grow something is the same no matter where you're located. It's just the when. What time of year do you plant it is going to differ. I be grubbing. What do you spray on your Barbados cherry tree because you have bugs eating the leaves? I would have to first you got to identify what kind of bug it is, if you can. If it's a worm, I don't have my leaves chewed up, so that's what I'm confused what it could be. But most chewed up leaves are some sort of a worm, and if it's a worm damage, you might not see them because a lot of them are nocturnal, but they're there. I use BT or spinosad. So that's going to be my first guess, is that you have some kind of chewing insect going on there. Dilshan says that you grew my purple okra last year and it grew so well. So excited to sow some more of those seeds. It wasn't purple okra. It was red burgundy, because I only have two, red burgundy and Clemson. But that is also one of my favorites. It's a unique color. I never see red okra at the grocery store, and it does produce really, really well as well. Oh, KS says squirrels ate half of your avocados last year. You have a fake motion activated owl that helps scare them off. That's good to know that works. Squirrels are definitely an issue. I have like one squirrel. I think they're territorial, so it's like the same squirrel. He'll take well, I don't know if it's a he or she, honestly, but it will take my peaches before they're fully developed and matured and pull them off the peach trees and stuff like that. What I've done is put a ring thing where you fill it up with peanuts to kind of distract them. So I feed them something else, and then they leave my peaches alone. I haven't seen them go for my avocados yet, and I have 2 avocado trees, but maybe they just like the peaches better. Oh, Green Sweep says you're having issues with squirrels digging. That could be a problem for sure. Definitely try sprinkling that cayenne pepper around. I've had issues where squirrels, I don't know how they know, I don't know, but I'll direct sow seeds for corn or like peas or something. They know it's there under that soil, and they'll dig it out and they'll eat it all. So sometimes I will sprout these things indoors, even the corn, in like a 72 cell seed tray, and grow out a little plug and then pop that into the garden. So it's already germinated, it's already grown a little bit, and they're not going to go after it. And you can do that for a lot of things as long as you're very careful not to disturb the roots of your little plug. Okay, I got to get on with this class. All right, let's keep going. So, healthy soil practices. What are some things that you guys can do? Healthy soil will create an environment where plants will just naturally thrive and resist a lot of these diseases, right? They have an immune system just like we do. One thing is improving the soil structure. So you hear it all the time, add compost, add compost, add compost. Because it makes the soil more aerated, so it doesn't get like root rot or standing water and stuff like that, because again, these pathogens love water and moisture, and that will cause them to proliferate and spread, all of that. So improving your soil structure will help. And it also, having good soil with high amounts of organic matter, reduce harmful or like the bad, not beneficial, fungus and bacteria and stuff that a lot of them proliferate in waterlogged soils to begin with. And they call that I don't know if it's anaerobic or aerobic. I don't know. But I think it's anaerobic when there's a lot of water and like oxygen can't move well and stuff like that. So some of these pathogens thrive in one condition or the other. So yeah, improving your soil structure, having good drainage, adding compost will help reduce the numbers of the bad ones. Same thing with like nematodes. That's why they say if you're in a nematode prone area, to try and add as much organic matter into your soil, because they don't really like soils rich in organic matter. I'm not saying you'll absolutely not get it, because some nematode, there's lots of different kinds of nematodes, but for the most part, they like more like sandy, loamy kind of soils instead of stuff full of organic matter. So just creating the conditions that they don't like to begin with. Healthy soil also with, organic amendments and stuff like that provide a wide range of nutrients, your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and micronutrients in slow release form that plants can easily absorb into their root system and break down and have access to, and that kind of thing. And they need those nutrients so they can maintain a healthy immune system, just like we need nutrients, to fight off a cold or whatever, like vitamin C, for example. So that will reduce disease stress on your plants. Also, of course, I kind of mentioned already, but compost will deter the bad microorganisms and also encourage the good ones that eat the bad stuff. Let's see. Yeah, so all of those things basically is adding compost, mulching, all of those things, not using chemicals that will disrupt the good microbiology that you're trying so hard to build in your soil, and that kind of stuff will just naturally reduce the amount of diseases you get on your plants through maintaining healthy soil. Part of that too is crop rotation. I was reading research that there isn't like solid, research and evidence and stuff like that about crop rotation, but being successful anyways, or having benefit. But throughout mankind, like our history, whatever, gardeners have made these observations where if you rotate crops, when I say rotating crops, I mean like completely different categories of crops. For example, tomatoes are part of the nightshade family, so are peppers and potatoes, whereas a lot of your brassicas are part of the brassicas family, like your cauliflower, cabbage, whatever. Then you have your legumes, your bush beans, yard-long beans, stuff like that. Those are the different categories, the nightshades, the legumes, the brassicas, and that's what you're going to rotate now. So like if one year you planted a whole bunch of tomatoes or anything in the nightshade family here, the next year, it should be 3 years consecutively, you're not going to plant them there again for another 3 years. You're going to plant something in a totally different family group, brassicas or the legumes or whatever. There's more squash, stuff like that, different kinds of families of these vegetables, and rotate that every year. Because each type of family group, like the tomatoes and nightshades, tend to experience the same kind of diseases and pests. So like your tomato blight and all of that stuff tends to bother like things in the nightshade family, but not so much like the legumes. So you're preventing a buildup of those pathogens in that area and that soil and stuff that will just keep continuously and reinfecting your crops. So that's why I believe crop rotation works, and I do practice that a lot. I was just saying there isn't like conclusive research out there, like a study about it, but I think just from age-old gardening wisdom and my experience anyways, that it is something that works. And then another example of a crop rotation, I wanted to make sure I said this one, is like your root crops. That can be a little difficult because a lot of the root crops are kind of in the same family, but you got to break it up. So like if one year you're planting carrots, the next year you can plant something in the allium family, like garlic or onions or something like that. And then, rotate out to some of those other things. Hold on, I got to pull up. I hate this. I don't know why. So typically this will stay open the whole time. but my phone just, it's like turning off the screen after no activity, and then I have to go back in the whole YouTube app and everything to find my chat here. Well, let me check the chat since I have it pulled up now. No madness. It's your first year of gardening. You're struggling to know when you're watering enough or not enough. I don't know if you, I just literally mentioned this. You could try the finger test. You poke your finger into the soil. If it's dry until your second knuckle, it could use some water. Otherwise, do not water. Sometimes plants, especially during summer, are just wilting under the high heat, not because there's not enough water. So the last thing you want to do is continue to put more water, because that will rot their roots and stress them out even more. So wait until evening time. If you notice those plants haven't perked back up once the temperatures drop a little bit in the evening, then yeah, it actually needed some water. And it just takes practice, honestly, to recognize the differences in your soil throughout the seasons and stuff like that. The type of soil you're using is also going to differ, cause differences between how long your soil can retain the moisture and stuff. It just takes practice, but after years of doing this, I can look at it and be like, yeah, it could use some water. Dan, you're saying you live outside of Valdosta, and should you have planted your tomatoes? I'm not sure when your last spring frost date is. That is the absolute number one thing you need to know about your garden, your area, so that you can accurately plant things out or start seeds or whatever. Everything is based around your first spring frost date or your first winter frost date. Not your garden zone. Garden zones only tell you the lowest temperature you will experience on average on any given winter, on average. Because there's some winters that are colder and there's some winters that are hotter, but on average, that's what you should get. But that has nothing to do with planting time. So, your goal, no matter where you're located, is to transplant your tomatoes out into the garden as soon as you're past your last spring frost date. So if you've passed it by now, you could be late. I passed mine way back in February. So I actually transplant my tomatoes like the second to the last week of January, something like that, knowing that I might still get a little bit of a frost, but I try to push my tomatoes a little earlier since I am in such a high pest and disease pressure area. So that works for me. It works fine, but I'm in a subtropical area. But yeah, if you're past your last spring frost date, you should be transplanting tomatoes right now, not starting them from seed. You're getting a little too late there. But there are people that are passing their last spring frost dates now in March, and people in April, May. I think there's even some like you Minnesota people and stuff like that that pass it in June. But yeah, or Alaska anyways. So then tomatoes are now more shifting towards, being grown during the summer. How to keep, KS is asking how to keep whiteflies out of the greenhouse. Oof, that's tough. That's tough when you get a pest in a greenhouse because it's an enclosed structure. They kind of get trapped in there and they go crazy. So whiteflies, I find, really like moist, humid environments. So I would start by, if you can, open up your greenhouse to get better airflow going in and out there. Whiteflies will lay their eggs in the soil and on the underside of the leaves. So you will have to spray with something like spinosad, which kills soft-bodied insects on contact, like the eggs, their larvae, that kind of stuff, before they get into the adult stage. So you'll want to treat the soils. You can even put a thin layer of sand on top of the soils of whatever you have in your greenhouse to keep it dry, and that prevents them from like laying eggs in there. Same thing with like gnats. And you could set up yellow sticky traps to catch the flying adults. Remove heavily damaged or infested leaves and get rid of it. And that's pretty much it. Whiteflies are tough because they're a flying insect, so it's not like you could just spray and be done with it. They're all over the place. But that's, you got to do like all of those things in combination to really, knock them out. Marie's asking, what kind of soil should I use in my raised beds and grow bags? Preferably a garden mixed soil, which most of the time is half compost and half topsoil. Just saying, if you go and order some in bulk, that's what the makeup of their garden blend is. Here in my garden, I'll be honest with you, I just go to Home Depot and I buy the cheapest compost I can find, and I fill all my grow bags. You can see them here, all my tomatoes and grow bags this year. I fill it with that compost, and even my raised beds, I filled it with that. Unless I have a really big project, will I order soil in bulk, because it's just more cost effective that way then. But yeah, I just grab a couple, I'm trying to reset my camera here. The cheapest compost I can find at Home Depot. I think it's called Timberland brand or something. But that I specifically only recommend pure compost if it's like that brand, because I know that brand, at least my experience, has been composted well enough to where if I fill, my grow bag with straight of that compost, it's not going to burn my plants. If the compost is finished compost, it's not going to burn your plants. But I have heard some people say, hey, I filled out my raised garden bed with straight compost and a bunch of my plants died because they got burned. Well, that particular compost brand or whatever must not be that great because it's not fully composted down. And I find my tomatoes grow the best in straight compost. I mean, they're a really nutrient hungry plant. So yeah, they do really good in a grow bag just full of straight compost. Mushroom compost is the best if you could find that. Yeah, that's what I do here in my garden. The only time I would use potting soil specifically is if I'm using like little pots or something, but like a grow bag, raised bed or something, nah, go with garden soil for those. Who dat boy is asking me if rainwater versus city water, if it affects my plants. So I'm on city water here. That's what I have. I'm in a very urban neighborhood here. My aunt's property where I have my garden and my chickens and stuff, another garden. We're building a massive, huge garden over there. And my chickens runs off from well water. She has well water there and pond water, because we have a pump that pulls water out of the pond, a pond that we have there to water and irrigate our plants. And so far I've not noticed issues using any of these water sources. The last water source that I have is actually catching my own rainwater. Obviously, if you can catch your own rainwater, that is absolutely the best, and you should do that. I just haven't set up any rainwater capture systems at all. It is something I would like to start implementing, but I am not good at like building stuff like that or plumbing the pipes and whatever stuff like that. So for me, that's a little bit challenging to figure out. But if you can do that, oh yeah, definitely I would get one of those big like water tanks, those like 275 or 300 gallon capacity ones. You can find them on Facebook Marketplace, usually pretty cheap. And I would store all the water in that and put a spigot on it and use that to water everything. But yeah, in Florida, water's not normally a problem for us, but definitely for you guys like in California and Texas and stuff like that, would greatly benefit from capturing your own water. But so far, I guess I've been lucky because not all city water is great. I mean, some gardeners do report to me, it's high in whatever chemical, and it's not good for your plants. Nancy's asking if I need to rotate legumes in the garden. Yes, so legumes are its own crop group, and then you have like nightshades, and you have squash, or like the cucurbita family is another kind. You have the different types of root crops. If it's a legume, and it still should be rotated, because those legumes have their own set of bacteria, viruses, all of that usually affect them. So if you keep planting legumes in the same spot, it's going to build up those same bacteria and stuff like that. So it's just good practice to also rotate those. Melody, you're asking me about WP Surround. I honestly don't know what that is. I'm going to guess it's some kind of pest control chemical. I don't know. If you could just confirm what that is, and then I could answer that question. Can you please suggest organic, vegan fertilizer and pesticides? I don't know about vegan. Okay. I know they're organic. I don't know about vegan. The class that I did live last month was all about organic pest control and what I use and all of that stuff. And you can see that, rewatch it in the live tab of my YouTube channel. So that's all. It was a lot of information. It's best you just go watch that. This class is about organic disease controls. Next month's class on April 19th is about organic fertilizer practices. So yeah, more to come. But you can definitely find all of that stuff. All right, so let me keep going. Let's talk about proper spacing and pruning. So proper plant spacing and vertical gardening as much as you can with everything that you can really help to reduce vegetable garden and plant diseases by improving air circulation, picking up the plants off from the soil where a lot of these pathogens, their spores and all that whatever stuff live, and they go dormant in there and they wake back up. I mean, it prevents them from getting onto your plants. So when you have overcrowded plants, the leaves are on top of each other, the wind can't flow through them. If they get wet, the water stays on them longer than normal. And again, it's that water where these pathogens will spread all over your plants. So you want to also avoid overhead watering as much as possible. And I know that's hard because some people don't have like drip irrigation. Not all of my garden is on drip irrigation. Most of it is, but there are still some spots that aren't, that I have to hand water. But the least that you could do is hand water, but at the base where the soil is of the plant, not on top of the plant all over it, soaking it, that kind of thing. Just point it down, avoid wetting those leaves as much as possible. Obviously, if it rains, there's nothing you can do about that, or you get a hurricane, there's nothing you can do about that. Your plants are going to get wet, but that's where you need to start using that hydrogen peroxide spray, which I'm going to show you guys how I mix it, how I spray it, and all that in a second once we get through all of this. Let me get back into the chat. Okay, so vertical garden as much as possible. Even if you have a small garden, you could probably vertical garden a lot, which will actually give you more space. So like I have 6 green stalk garden towers. Those are vertical garden structures. They're great. I also install a lot of these really tall or shorter. The height doesn't matter. But the point is, those types of vertical trellis systems, I installed that all by myself because they're really easy to do. They don't require a lot of tools. It's not heavy, that kind of thing. And I have a YouTube video tutorial showing you how I built these same ones if you want to see. I grow just about everything on that. The heavy crops like loofah, tromboncino rapicante, all the way down to things like sweet peas and whatever. So very, very versatile. It definitely helps me maximize my space and everything that I can grow. Yeah, I couldn't do a lot of this, like even my tomatoes. First off, I would never recommend anyone grow tomatoes without some kind of vertical structure. It is a vining plant, except for microdwarfs, which I actually have a couple microdwarfs in these bags too, because those are like little compact, little bushy plants. Those don't need vertical support for the most part. But yeah, not only will you be reducing the diseases and stuff in your garden, but you'll be maximizing your garden space. Another thing you can do is just start off by selecting disease-resistant cultivars of the crops you're interested in growing to begin with. So, for example, there's a lot of heirlooms. They're not all the same. Some heirlooms varieties, depending on the cultivar, might be a little bit more disease-resistant than the next one. After all my years of gardening, I've been gardening like my whole life since I was a little kid. I have noticed significant differences sometimes between different varieties of the same kind of crop, like different heirloom tomatoes and stuff like that. It's part of why I like to experiment so much. I'm always growing new varieties every season to just kind of see like who does better. And there are some things, heirloom, that really stand out to me and do have just a naturally higher disease resistance. Some examples of things that I swap out or switch out or prefer. The summertime, again, is when, for everybody, your disease and pest pressure is going to be at its max. It's the heat, it's the rains, all of that. It's going to be at your max. So knowing if I'm going into summer and I'm planning what are the kind of crops and things that I'm going to grow this summer, instead of growing a regular cucumber, like a market cucumber, the ones you see in the grocery or standard American grocery store, Try growing an Asian variety like the Japanese or the Chinese cultivars. They have naturally much higher pest and disease resistances. So that's what I will start growing during the summer. Another example is bush beans. For the most part, beans, legumes don't get a lot of diseases, but if you're in Florida or a subtropical place, they are not going to be happy during the summer. So instead, I switched to growing tropical legumes that just naturally have a higher heat, disease, pest tolerance. So I will grow yard-long beans during the summer, and those will produce for me no problem. I don't even have to be like treating really for any diseases with those. Instead of growing regular tomatoes, try growing Everglades tomatoes, which also has a very high natural pest and disease resistance. Also during the summer, instead of growing just any squash type of thing, focus on the Cucurbita moscata group specifically. So that would be like Seminole pumpkins, Trombocino rapicante, butternut squash even, because these are also have much higher disease and pest resistances. So just knowing like cultivar selection is important, and it will help you get more, just a little fine tune it and get more accurate so that you're not struggling with these diseases so much to begin with. So like the cucumber example, the cucumbers, for example, I said, don't grow the market type, grow the Asian type during the summer. Well, I can still grow the market types. I still enjoy eating those ones, but I will save that for spring or fall when the disease and pest pressure just naturally drop again. So it's just planning, how you're going to do this. And obviously there's a lot of disease resistant hybrids. I don't have a lot of hybrid seeds on my website because I can't produce that. I don't have a company, whatever like that, where I am hybridizing seeds. So I get those from those seed companies that breed them and produce them. I buy them in bulk from them so that I can use those same seeds in my garden because I enjoy some of those, and also provide those seeds out for you guys, the regular homegrown home backyard gardeners. I even have access to more disease resistant varieties that are normally grown by farmers, like that level of stuff. So I'm starting to trial out some of those so that I could therefore offer them on my website to you guys too. So there's a lot coming. But so far I do have a couple hybrids on my website that I do really like. For example, with the tomatoes, Sun Gold Cherry, famously known for its wonderful flavor, is also a hybrid that has very high disease resistances as well. I've even grown, in a lucky year, once in a blue moon, I'll have one survive even in my summer, which says a lot. So yeah, so you can go for, hybrids that have a higher disease package. And all of those things together combined will just help in general reduce the amount of diseases and stuff going on in your garden to begin with, before you have to now get to the point of, okay, I got to actually treat for this stuff now. So that's what we're going to talk about next, the treatments. What do you do? You've tried everything else. Your garden's still getting them. What do you do? But let me stop and check my chat real quick. Manuel is asking, is Surround a good pest control to use? Okay, so I still don't know what Surround is, and my husband used to work in pest control. He probably knows what that is. But I'm going to assume that is some kind of spray that you probably put at the perimeter of your house or something like that. I wouldn't use that in your garden. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's formulated for house use only, like to put around my husband used to tell me in pest control, he's in Florida, right? They spray substances around around your window or around your door frames and stuff like that to prevent bugs and insects from crossing over that line and going into your house. So that is different. That wouldn't be the same as something you would use in your garden. So I'm guessing that's what Surround is. I'm sorry, I don't know 100% sure, but I'm guessing that's what it is. Dan is asking, you have untreated grass in your lawn. Is it safe to use those clippings as a mulch in the garden, even if there are a lot of weeds? It is safe to use. A lot of people use grass clippings in the garden. Obviously, if it's untreated and you haven't sprayed it with stuff. I do not spray my lawn. I don't even put fertilizer on my lawn, because to me that's a waste of chemicals, and it just drains out and goes into our ecosystem, our waterways and stuff. So I don't do that at all. I don't treat my lawn with chemicals, pest control. No, not the lawn. So yeah, if you have untreated grass, that's a good source of nitrogen right there to add into your compost. Some people even just kind of use it as a mulch almost on top of the layers of soils. Don't waste it. Definitely use that. But you might have, if you have a lot of weeds in your lawn, you're going to spread weed seeds around. So that's a con right there. So depending on, if it's just pure grass or if you have a lot of weeds in there, if I had a lot of weeds in it, I wouldn't use it, because I already deal with so many weeds to begin with. So I don't need to be adding more. Okay. Tiffany is talking about how she uses the hydrogen peroxide solution that I always talk about all the time, and it worked. And Manuel is asking just regular hydrogen peroxide. Yes, regular hydrogen peroxide that you go buy at the grocery store. I'm almost there. I'm going to show you guys how I spray my plants and mix it and that kind of thing. Super easy, fast. You don't have to be manually hand mixing it all the time and going to each and every plant. And I'll show you. But let's talk about the treatment options. And when we get to the hydrogen peroxide, I'll show you guys. But all right, you got a disease problem. You've tried everything and it's still there. You got to treat for it now. So natural sprays, that would be the hydrogen peroxide spray, neem oil, baking soda solutions, milk sprays. A lot of people, I have not done the milk spray, but a lot of people tell me it works for powdery mildew very well. Same thing with the baking soda type of sprays, because the substances in the baking soda and the milk kind of block the pathogens from, I believe, grabbing on or sticking onto the leaves to proliferate. So that's how those things kind of work there. Or natural soap sprays. And whenever I hear people using soap in the garden, a lot of people like to put a few drops of soap in, to treat or mix into solutions, which is fine. Please don't use dish soap though. Don't use Dawn dish soap. That is not soap at all. That is a detergent. Use a natural soap like Dr. Bonner's or, something like that. An actual natural soap. And so that is a huge misconception. Or you're dousing your plants with chemicals, and that is not organic. All right. So those are my first set of things that I will try using. For mostly everything though in my garden, the hydrogen peroxide spray works so well that I don't even get to the point of having to use everything else. But if that doesn't even help, let's say it's just been raining for days and days and days and days. If it's been raining a lot and you spray and it rains, it's just going to wash that spray off. So that really makes it hard to treat for things if it's not being able to sit there and sink and clean and whatever it's got to do. Then you might need something just a tiny notch more stronger. And that's where I would use something like Monterey. It's a brand of different kinds of garden pest and disease control products. They sell an organic disease control spray. So that's what I would use if it's just horrible, nothing else is working. And again, in the description, I put links to all this stuff, right? You'll find a link for that there. There's also a lot of people, and I don't deny this, I haven't done it myself, but a lot of people, when it comes to growing tomatoes, will make a spray with aspirin. And the reason why that works, and there's actually research on this, that it works. Aspirin has a compound called salicylic acid, if I pronounced that correctly. But it binds to tomato plant cells and it stimulates the tomato plant's immune system. So it kind of makes them be a little hyperactive with their immune system and just prep themselves for what's to come. So it's used as a preventative type of spray. You can apply it in the soil where the roots are, so the tomato plants will uptake it through its, plant tissue and everything, or you can spray it on the foliage as well. If you're going to do a soil drench, you're going to mix 325 milligram non-coated, it has to be non-coated aspirin capsules because if it's coated, it's got that gunk, it's not going to break down and mix up with the water well. But you're going to mix that with plus 1 teaspoon of an all-natural soap per gallon of water. And then you're going to drench the soil around your tomato plants. Or if you want to go the foliage spray route, you take 1 aspirin, non-coated aspirin tablet, break it up. Some people squish them between 2 spoons and get it into a powder, and then mix it with a gallon of water, and then spray the plant foliage with that. And you reapply this about every 2 weeks during the entire growing season to just kind of keep their immune system high. And a lot of people report success with that. I haven't done it because I'm so happy with my hydrogen peroxide spray. Works for me, and I am growing tomatoes at a more appropriate time of the year for me where the diseases aren't that bad of an issue. Okay, so there's also biological controls, and by that I mean adding beneficials into like the soil. So a great way to do that is by using compost seed, brewing your own compost seed, which is a whole topic on its own. But if you make compost seed, that is excellent. You're adding so much beneficial microbes and stuff into your soils and all over your garden and into your plants. And those alone, a lot of those will eat the bad stuff, the bad pathogens, the bad pests, larvae, like all sorts of things, or encourage an environment for those beneficials to really take hold in your garden. Another thing is removing infected plant material and dispose of it. Do not compost with it. I had mentioned that a little bit earlier before. Encouraging beneficial insects like ladybugs, lacewings, and other predators that will eat the bad pests that also transmit a lot of diseases between your plants, like the aphids. Mulching heavily under all of your plants prevents soil backsplash. So a lot of these pathogens, they have their spores and stuff like that in your soil. They backsplash up onto your plants when water hits them and stuff. So putting a nice thick layer of mulch will really prevent that. I use wood chips in my garden. I get them for free. It's a big load, a huge truck that comes through and dumps a big load like the size of my car. But I spread it all over, and then usually I still have enough left over that I have like a mound in the back corner of my garden that I let that like kind of compost down, or I'll use it later and spread it around. So that's how you can get a lot of free mulch. Anyways, I use Chip Drop for that, by the way. Chipdrop.com. I don't know, I forget the exact website, but search Chip Drop. Or you can call your local like arborist companies and stuff. Some of them would be more than happy to dump all of their like wood chips for you for free. Solarization is another treatment. So if you notice, a trick that I do here, I have a lot of this black weed blocker material on the floor of my garden. So that is, I started using that because weeds. It's just, the weeds are crazy. And I'm one person trying to take care of this garden in this jungle of a state called Florida. And the weeds literally overnight turn into a jungle in the summer here. So I've started using this weed blocker material in areas that I'm not going to be like growing in at the time. So the soil isn't bare, because if your soil is bare, the weed seeds will spread all over. They'll start germinating, all of that stuff. So that's why I started using this, especially in like my pathways and stuff. But then what I noticed as well, I had a decrease in like tomato blight and stuff, and especially the bacterial wilts and whatever that are in the soil and get up into the plant. And it's a systemic type of infection that is not curable. So I noticed this black material heats up the soil, and it must be killing off pathogens. There's even been summers where I put I get a tarp of plastic from Amazon, like it's like a frosted white plastic. You don't want clear because the sun rays will still go through, and the weeds, some of them, especially like crabgrass and stuff, will still grow under that. You want like a frosted white one, because that will block the light out just enough to prevent a lot of those weeds and stuff from growing, but also heat up the soil and kill a lot of the stuff under there. So I noticed a significant reduction in tomato wilt and all that. I can't even remember the last time I've seen a tomato wilt. So if you have like a soil-borne disease or whatever that, you can't treat your soil really. You can't douse it in chemicals or whatever. So try solarization, see if that helps. And if you're going to solarize, really for that to be effective, you need to do it right in the middle of summer when it's the hottest, and leave it there for like 6 to 8 weeks. There's been times I have shut down this entire section during the summer. I'm still growing stuff though, just on the other side of my house, but I do honestly like to shut down like half of it because it's just very overwhelming in the summer to be managing and taking care of a garden of this size when it's so hot. It's disgusting. Like, I don't even want to come out here during the summer. So I do shut down like half of the garden, and I've felt just so much more relieved and not as stressed out when I do that. So that's how, you know, I've solarized this area a lot, at least like once a year when I do that, and notice significant decreases in a lot of that stuff. Okay, so we're finally at the point where I'm going to show you guys how I spray the hydrogen peroxide spray, mix it, all that kind of stuff. Let me put my stuff down here. So this is hydrogen peroxide. I get this from home, from Sam's Club because it's pretty cheap. It's like $1 some each bottle in a pack of 2. This is 3% hydrogen peroxide solution. But you can find this anywhere, right? Walmart, pharmacies, whatever. So I buy a lot of this, and I have it always stocked up at home. Next, I get a hose end sprayer like this. This is a dial hose end sprayer because I can dial in the ratio that I want this to mix for me, and it will automatically mix everything and shoot it out of the water hose spray, right? So that way I'm not mixing hydrogen peroxide in a little can, a watering can, mixing it, pouring it over my plants, and having to go back and mix another can when it runs out. Like, that is extremely tedious. So this does it all for me, and I just go through and spray the whole garden. The good thing is hydrogen peroxide is an organic thing. It doesn't linger very long. It breaks down very quickly, but it lingers enough to like clean and disinfect the leaves of things. So dousing your plants in this is not going to cause excuse me guys, I am recovering from a cold, so my voice and everything is not the best today, but it's not something like, you know, spinosad or BT, for example, which kill like worms. They can also kill other, you know, good insects if that stuff gets on them. So I always say, you know, use a pump sprayer with a mist setting, so you can control where you're applying that treatment, because you don't want to douse your entire garden in that or your plants in that. So I use a different kind of tool or whatever to apply that. But with the hydrogen peroxide, this stuff is safe to use. I literally just douse my plants in them. But again, I'm only dousing the plants that have some sort of disease problem. I'm not like dousing herbs or something like that just because. So yeah, so I dial this in. My ratio of mixing this is 1 cup per gallon of water. There's some people with recipes out there that are less than 1 cup per gallon of water, but I go strong. I go strong right off the bat because I have so many diseases here, and I have not noticed an issue or like the plant being damaged or something like that. So you can go 1 cup with this, which is the same as 8 ounces. And this dialer here is it's by ounces and tablespoons. So I just dial this in, move it to the 8 ounce mixing ratio right there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but dial it to 8 ounces. So this will automatically mix this hydrogen peroxide at a rate of 8 ounces per gallon of water as I spray. So then, and I have links to all this stuff in the description if you want to get the same sprayer and stuff like that. This is really good too if you do composting, you want to spray like the foliage of your plants, that kind of thing. It'll mix all of it. If you strain your compost tea, make sure you don't have like stuff in there that'll clog up this sprayer. But it's a very fast way of like spraying plants with things. But anyways, you just take the little canister, I fill it up with a bunch of hydrogen peroxide. And you want to use fresh hydrogen peroxide with this every time. I had somebody say, hey, you know, I left some in the canister for a week. Can I still continue using it? I would use fresh every time because hydrogen peroxide, I believe, is very, like, I want to say the word volatile, but that's not exactly how I want to describe it either. But the oxygen kind of like dissipates or something and it breaks down. And so it's not going to be as effective. So I would use fresh. But anyways, put it in there in this canister. And then you get your water hose. This isn't the best water hose. It leaks and stuff, but this is what I have over here. So you put it on there. I gotta go run and turn the water on now. So 1 second, guys, while I go do that, okay? 1 second. Okay, so I'm gonna move this around so you guys can see me spraying all of my tomatoes, or a tomato. Let's see, which one? Actually, I don't know if I flip here. I think the sun being behind me isn't that good, but I got a lot of tomatoes right there. All right, let me reset this. Okay, all right. I think you'll be able to see well. Let's see. Yeah, all right, you guys can see me good here. I can't see the chat from here, so 1 second, I will check the chat. But yeah, so this is ready to go. Like I said, this isn't the best water hose, so it kind of leaks a little bit, but it still works. And it has different spray settings, but whatever one, it doesn't matter. I usually like to do this in the evening though. I don't think this will kill a bee or something like that, but regardless of whatever I spray, I always like to do that in the evening when all the pollinators have left, just in case, right? And I literally douse my tomatoes in this, right? And there's times that I have seen, you know, a really bad blight infection and that and whatnot. Actually, I got a couple leaves here. Let me show you what that looks like. Again, I don't even bother like trying to identify exactly what it is, but as you can see, those spots, whatever, it's definitely some sort of disease that proliferates on the surface of the soil. So the hydrogen peroxide can kill the pathogens that is on this. But what I do notice is if you look at it, it's like brown with yellow, right? A couple days after spraying with this hydrogen peroxide, it kind of looks like it just dies out, and the whole infection part, the yellowing and that kind of just turns brown and crispy, and it's like, I feel that is a sign that that pathogen is like dying or whatever, has been eradicated or something. But you will notice like a change in that, and then those leaves just fall off or whatever, or you prune them out, whatever you want to do. I make sure to spray the entire plant, including the stems, because the stems will carry those pathogens as well. Blight, how I know I have blight, is because you will see they kind of look like black lesions on the stems specifically. Classic sign that you have blight. And I have sprayed this and have noticed those black lesions like disappear a few days later after applying this. So I really do believe, obviously, that this works. Spray everything. I even like to spray down around the root, or not the root, but like the base of the plant where it comes in contact with the soil. Because again, a lot of pathogens will sit on top of that soil and they're just waiting to be splashed up onto your plants. So I have rows and rows of tomatoes, one right here, another one back there. This is absolutely the fastest way to treat for leaf diseases, in my opinion, okay? If you're using neem or something like that, I would be careful. Because I don't want that getting on the good stuff, right? The good bees and whatever. Again, spray in the evening, and with neem or whatever, I would control it a little bit better and not use a sprayer like this, but use one of these. Here's the hand pump sprayer I had mentioned earlier, where you get like a fine mist spray and you can better control where it's landing on your plants. So this is what I use. This is what I use for like the spinosad and BT when I was talking about that earlier. But this is stuck. What? Or I have it locked. There. So this is a 2-gallon sprayer, so this will last a while, right? The last thing I want to do is have to repetitively go back to mix stuff and then go back and spray it on my plants and then have to mix more. To me, that is so annoying. So a canister like this works really well too. That's going to last you a long time, give you more control for some of those substances that maybe you don't want it getting all over the place. But yeah, the hydrogen peroxide spray, I use this, okay? So I'm gonna go run and turn off the water real quick, and then I'm gonna look at your questions. So 1 second. All right, I gotta get resituated here. Let me grab my chair and some water. It's pretty hot today, but it's been very cold during the night, which is weird for this time of year. Like 40s and stuff. It should not be like this in March. I guess we're just having a abnormally cold year here in Florida. But I'm okay with that. I love it. It's great. It's a nice temperature to be outside. So yeah, guys, that is the class. I hope you guys learned a lot on how to treat your garden organically for these diseases, and prevention. That is key. The sooner that you notice something, I mean, as soon as you notice something, you need to start treating for it. Don't wait. Don't be like, I'll spray it tomorrow or whatever, because you're just giving that pathogen more time to spread all over your garden, which is going to require more treatments. So, yeah, try not to be lazy with it. I'm not perfect. There's times where I'm like, I'm just tired. I don't want to do it right now. But just know it's going to be harder to deal with the next day. I need some shade. It's hot. It's very, very hot. And let me see if I can move a little bit. All right, let me get to answering some of your questions here. Let me go up in the chat here 1 second while I get caught up. All right, Nancy is saying, my tromboncino squash is dropping fruit. It looks a little rotted at the end. Any idea? Right away, I can tell you what that is. So and this happens with any kind of squash, like your zucchinis and stuff like that. If the little baby squash, the fruit is stopped growing or developing and it's now turning yellow and rotting, that means it didn't get pollinated. So that is where I highly recommend that you learn how to hand pollinate your squash and zucchinis and stuff like that, because it really sucks to lose an opportunity out for this vegetable to develop just because it didn't get pollinated. Excuse me. My throat is starting to hurt a lot. But so, you know, my garden has tons of bees. I've had people say that's because you don't have enough bees in your garden. That is not true. I have tons of bees. But it usually takes like a big bumblebee or something like that to carry enough pollen between those flowers to properly 100% pollinate that flower. So sometimes they don't do a good enough job or they miss it or something. So if you want to make sure 100% that thing is going to turn into a fruit, you need to hand pollinate. And that is not hard to do at all. So what I do is the very first thing, I come out in my garden in the early morning. I like to check my squashes. Excuse me. I like to check my squashes and see which ones opened up that day. Like which of the females with the baby fruit opened up that day. Because they only last like a day at most. And then I'll go find a male flower. And I will pull off all the petals and just get the little, I forget what it's called, stamen, whatever, the pollen part. And it's like fluffy. You can see all the little pollen, yellow fluff on it. So I just take that and then I'll go in and rub it onto the female center, which I think is called the pistil, and rub it all over it, right? And make sure that that thing gets pollinated. And I usually don't have an issue with it at all. Some people like to get paintbrushes and to like transfer it that way. You can do that too. It's just, I always forget to bring stuff with me. So it's just easier for me to pull off that, you know, pollen piece or whatever and use it. Ruth is saying my corn is yellow green and I have this fungus mushroom on one end of the corn block. I tried fish emulsion and blood meal over different weeks. What should I add to the soil? All right, Ruth. Corn, at the very beginning of the class, I was actually talking about corn. Corn is related to grass, and it requires pretty high amounts of nitrogen to get its best growth and production out of it. You can definitely use, the blood meals and stuff like that. It does have some nitrogen, but if you really want to see your corn take off, you need to use a synthetic fertilizer that's high nitrogen, like I can't remember if it was ammonium sulfate that I was using or something. Or urea, super high in nitrogen, like 44% nitrogen, and the rest of like the phosphorus and potassium are non-existent. It's just pure nitrogen. So you want to use that because it's a grass relative. It needs a lot of nitrogen to grow all of that foliage. Just to put it into perspective, like corn farmers, they say they haven't fertilized enough until the corn leaves, like the edges of the leaves, start turning crispy brown, like they're getting burned, if that makes sense, from too much fertilizer. That's when you know you've fertilized corn enough. I never get mine to that point. It's not like I'm dousing them with that nitrogen to get them to like burn, but I put enough that the leaves should be a nice solid green color, really good. Or I had mentioned too, the number one cause of yellowing leaves is overwatering or something like that. So I would check that too. Fish emulsion, blood meal, they're kind of weaker on the scale of like nitrogen. So I use that all over my garden for other things, just not for the corn. And as far as the fungus, I've had a lot of people, be like, this mushroom popped up in my garden. What should I do? Leave it alone. Mushrooms are a good sign of the biology in your garden. They're completely harmless. They aren't going to harm your plants. But I'm wondering if with the corn specifically, I don't know what this is called off the top of my head, but there is like a mold thing that will develop in the cobs of corn, and it's actually like a specialty. Like in Mexico and stuff, they eat it. I've personally never eaten it, but I'm just letting you know of it. I can't remember what that thing is called, because that is a normal occurring thing with some corn sometimes. DJ Castle, yes, I am a huge Deftones fan, original fan. I'm not none of these TikTokers that fell in love with it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen them in concert, a million times. And I actually just saw them 2 nights ago, right here in Orlando. Probably the best show I've ever seen them do, actually, so far. So, highly oxidative. That's probably the word I was looking for when I was trying to talk about how quickly hydrogen peroxide breaks down. or reactive. Thank you for those. I'm still scrolling through here. Do I save or repost the videos? I think you mean maybe this garden class. These classes are uploaded to the live section of my channel. If you want to rewatch it, you can there. Ashley's asking, how do my newly planted tomatoes do with the low temps at night? They're fine. Tomatoes probably tolerate a lot more cold than what you think. I don't cover my tomatoes unless it is estimated to be like 32 or below, which is the freezing point of water. So unless that happens, I don't care. Like, they're fine. Even the newly planted ones. They might look a little sad in the morning, but they recover and they're fine. When should you start cucumbers in Florida? You should have been starting them back in January and February. Ideally, I would say you're not too late if you get some in now. Like, don't wait until the end of after March passes, because with cucumbers, again, it's another crop that just attracts tons of pests and diseases and everything. It's best to grow them as early as you can in the season when the pest and disease pressure is down, and then harvest everything out before summer arrives. So my preferred timing for that, I don't know where in Florida you're located, but if you're like Central Florida, my last spring frost day is the second week of February, around there. But even with that, we don't get like cold like that. So I honestly, this year I direct sowed seeds for my squashes and cucumbers and melons, all like that last week of January, first week of February, knowing that a little cold's going to come. But direct sowing them gave them a jump start on the season. I just knew though those are very sensitive to like colder temperatures, more so than the tomatoes. I just covered them up. Like I took a milk jug and cut the bottom out, flipped it over, made a little greenhouse around it. I only had to cover those things, which wasn't a lot. So they survived, and I am now harvesting at this point. So that is a goal, and I still don't have the diseases and pest pressure, taken over yet. So that is my preferred way of doing it going forward. You should be harvesting by this point. But you're not too late. I would say if you go ahead and direct sow some seeds for some cucumbers right now, like right now, you'll probably be okay, but you're gonna run into the time of year when those pests and diseases start showing up, so you have to stay on top of it. If you cannot stay on top of it, then I wouldn't bother planting them right now. It will only work if you stay on top of it. So it's not complicated. It is when you're a beginner gardener. It's frustrating, just like getting into the rhythm of treatments and what to look for and all that kind of stuff. But after some time, it's very natural to you, and you can stay on top of it. But for less frustration and that kind of thing, if you're in Florida, you really should have been direct sowing the seeds for this stuff like as soon as your frost date is passed. There's people in Florida that don't even have a frost date, like my zone's 11 people, South Florida people, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, all those places don't even have frost like that. Then you just gotta direct sow the seeds for that stuff during your cool season, whenever your coolest months of the year, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I would say you can, if you're able to stay on top of the diseases, and if you can, even better, get some hybrids with a high disease package, or switch already to the Asian cultivars. My personal favorite is one called China Jade. It's a parthenocarpic variety, which means it's self-fertile. So every single female flower that has the little baby fruit will self-pollinate itself. And that's like a great way to just increase production right there. So that's what I would do right now. And if you want melons or something like that, I recommend the personal size ones at this point, because they will be ready for harvest sooner than like a big watermelon. Just so you plant it, you get to that harvest point as soon as possible and get it out. Like harvest it out of your garden before summer arrives, basically. Thank you, Dan. I now see your comment where you mentioned the name of that corn fungus. Yeah, I would not have remembered that. I don't even want to pronounce that name, right? I imagine that's like Mayan or some kind of Aztec or Indian native language, whatever. But yeah, it is considered a delicacy, actually, and people eat it. I'm still scrolling through, guys. I hate it when I go silent. The problem is nothing's wrong. It's just trying to catch up here. CKKP is in St. Cloud, Florida, which is where my aunt's garden is. I go there pretty much once a week. And my chickens and my bees. I grew up in St. Cloud, actually. And now I live in, it's considered Orlando, Orange County, but very, very close to the border with Osceola County for St. Cloud. But how to deal with mealybugs. So mealybugs is a pest. I did talk about them in last month's video about organic pest control, but just real quick, mealybugs, they are fuzzy little white, soft-bodied insects that suck the juices out of your plants. A couple of them is no big deal, but very quickly they will populate, reproduce, and cover your plant and suck the life out of it. So the good things is mealybugs are soft-bodied, so that means you can use something like spinosad, which kills soft-bodied insects on contact, and kill them like that. And you got to stay on top of that spray, though, repetitively to break the life cycle of that particular insect and knock its population down. Rhonda Mayo, you just planted your tomatoes and tomatillos and you noticed my trellises. If I have a video for that, yes, I do. I have a video showing exactly how I built these same ones right here. These are super extra tall. I use T-posts. So what it is let me get up. This is my favorite trellis system. So it's a T-post, right? And you can get T-posts in various sizes. This is a 10-foot tall T-post, so I can make my trellis super tall for my tomatoes. Otherwise, I mean, this is really good for like cucumbers too, or like vining pole beans that can get that tall. And at the very top, it's a PVC T that fits perfectly on top of the T-post. And then I stick this, these are 10-foot electrical conduit pipes into that PVC. And that's it. And then I get this mesh material from Amazon. This is a heavy-duty vinyl mesh that lasts me years. It's not going to break down on you on just like one season or something. So very easy. I put the whole thing up together myself. It's lightweight. It's easy to take it down if you decide to like reconfigure your whole garden or something. I've had hurricanes. We just got hit. I think the last one was state or level category 3, I think it was. I forget the name. It was in October or whatever. And it hasn't blown down these T-posts or any of that stuff. But obviously, if you get hit by a stronger hurricane or you get massive amounts of flooding, I can't guarantee that the T-posts aren't going to fall down for you. I don't know. But very, very sturdy. They will hold up heavy crops, lightweight crops, pretty much anything. I do have a tutorial. It's on my YouTube channel. I don't know if I linked that in the description of this class. Maybe I did, because vertical gardening helps reduce diseases. So I may have linked that in there. So check it out. But yeah, I have a full tutorial that shows you exactly every step of building these. Ios Chris says you have Diva cucumbers. I've heard good things about that one. I haven't grown that one myself, but I have heard a lot of Florida gardeners like Diva because of its high, its package, its disease and pest package. So whenever something says it has high disease or pest resistance, just so you know, resistance doesn't mean impossible. Okay, you're probably still going to get some at some point. Resistance just means it does a decently good job of resisting it until some point, or not being phased by it at some point. But eventually, you're probably still going to get it. So some people think, by planting Seminole pumpkins, that means you'll never get squash bugs, and that's not true. They will resist them for a long time, for sure, which increases your chances of harvesting something. That's a personal question in there. SM. I am married, and my husband, what's the word? He's a man and I'm a woman. And that's how I am. I've been with him more than half my life at this point. I met him when I was 15. And he is my best friend and my soulmate. You guys don't see him in the videos because he's asked not to be in them. I don't know why, but he doesn't want to be up in this, which is fine. I respect that, but he does help me a lot with behind the scenes. He's probably watching this class right now. He helps manage the chat, because there's been times where people will troll the chat and stuff like that. And I want to keep this a happy, positive place all about gardening. So he helps me with that kind of stuff, or like the technical things behind it, or editing, or sound quality, stuff like that. He helps me out a lot. Okay. Turn my volume down. I cannot. You will have to turn yours down. I'm sorry. I wear a mic with this poofy thing on it because it gets very windy in here and the sound will get horrible. So unfortunately, that's the only way I can guarantee at least the sound is clear. I'm sorry. You'll have to put it down or something. Okay, guys. Any last questions? Because I'm done here. Usually these classes are meant to be an hour, and I have a tendency to go over because I like talking about gardening so much. So we are at 20 minutes from being 2 hours long. So I'm just going to take the last couple questions here and call it a day. CKKP, you planted the Piracicaba Brazilian sprouting broccoli, my absolute favorite, because it is the most heat tolerant broccoli type thing I've ever grown. Mine would also be producing right now still. It will go for me until like May, which is insane because broccoli and all that other stuff will die out by now, by March. It's already like way too hot for them. But I let it go to bloom. I don't know if you guys can see all those yellow flowers back there. I let it all go to bloom because the bees really love it, and I don't have the heart to like cut those flowers down. It's fine. I'm done. I've harvested so much off from it, and I still have Brussels sprouts and some cabbages. I need to take those out now. They're done. So yeah, I absolutely love piracicaba. If you're really struggling to grow regular broccoli, try piracicaba. And I have seeds for that on my website. And I also have 10% off everything on my website right now as part of my spring seed and plant sale that ends tomorrow. So you guys can get some really good stuff. The same stuff I grow in my garden. I try to make it available on there. I have a smaller yard. Can I still plant cucumbers? Of course. I'm pretty sure you can find a way. You can build a little trellis and plant some of that. You can grow them in green stalk garden towers. There's even bush cucumbers that I am trialing that for the first time right now. So that means it's supposedly that they don't need like a trellis or something to like grow all over. So if you don't have space to install like some kind of vertical thing, you can try some of those bush cucumbers. What size container is best for indeterminate tomatoes? So indeterminates get really, really big. These are, I believe I recommend at least 15 gallons or up for an indeterminate. For cherries, I recommend, sometimes you can get away with a 5, but if you can give them 10, that's even better. For micro dwarfs, you can plant those in a 1 gallon size, like super tiny, in the pockets of a green stalk garden tower. Or I just saw this, I'm going to do a YouTube video of this, somebody, I was at a garden place, nursery, getting some plants, and somebody made a little craft project where they got like the really cute cans of tomato sauce, like the Cento, or like the ones that say like San Marzano on it or whatever. And they poked some holes at the bottom of the can and made that into a little pot for the micro dwarfs. It was the cutest thing. I was like, oh my God, that is so cute. So yeah, you can fit those micro dwarfs in a cute little can like that on your patio, on a porch, a sunny windowsill. EV Apartments, I am in Florida. I'm zone 10A, and I'm in Orlando, so I'm like Central Florida specifically. I do specialize in gardening for hot climates, but I have stuff for everybody. The way to grow something or the way to treat a plant disease or a pest or whatever is the same for everyone, no matter where you're located. It's just the timing. The timing of things are definitely going to be a little bit different. I started planting my spring garden way back in January and February, whereas the rest of the country, for the most part, is starting now because the official day of spring was March 20th, just 2 days ago. So you all are now planting your spring. I'm like a season ahead, which is cool because then that means you guys can get ideas from what I'm doing now and then, you know, apply that later when you finally get to your planting point. But yeah, I'm about to start finishing up harvesting out the last bit of my spring stuff. Angela, any advice on planting blueberry bushes and in putting it in a 20 gallon? 20 gallons should be okay for a blueberry bush. The thing with blueberries, I used to have a bunch of them and I pulled them out because it's hard. You have to maintain an acidic soil. If you cannot do that, do not even bother growing blueberries. Blueberries are native to forests, like forests up north. Pine and mountains and that kind of thing. And the soils there are acidic. So if you try to plant a blueberry in soil that is not acidic, it will slowly over time just starve itself out. It's not... If the soil isn't acidic, it locks the roots up and they cannot absorb nutrients from the soil. So over time, the plant will slowly just look worse and worse and worse, no matter what you do. And you're like, what is wrong with this? The soil needs to be acidic. And I don't know where you're located, but in Florida, our soils are the opposite of acidic. Our sandy soils are more on the basic side, like 7.5, something like that. So you have to constantly be adding stuff to drop that soil level. Where growing a blueberry in a container is a fantastic way, because that offers you more control on the soil acidity. If you plant a blueberry in our soil, our native soil, whatever, basically the nutrients and the acidity will wash out every time we get rain and all that, and it's gone. So you will have to constantly be putting more and more and more. But if you plant it in a container, you can control it. Fill that container with an acid lovers mix soil. You can find those, at any place, big box store, Home Depot, whatever. Look for like the acid lovers, rhododendron mix, whatever. You can make your own by mixing, I believe it's like equal parts compost with equal parts of fine pine bark mulch or something, because that's acidic. And then there's also fertilizers and stuff that will acidify the soil too every time that you fertilize. So you have to do all that. All of that. If you cannot do all of that, don't waste your time, your energy, your space on blueberries. All the blueberry farms here in Florida, we grow a lot of blueberries. There's tons of blueberries farms. I'm actually going blueberry picking tomorrow at a farm. But they have to do this. They inject these things, these chemicals into their irrigation to keep the soil pH down and all this stuff. So it's not impossible, but you really have to understand that about the soil pH to be successful with it. My gosh, you guys are watching me from other countries at 2 a.m.? That's crazy. I never, that's effort right there. I go to sleep at 10:30. I am knocked out. I am exhausted. I will not stay up at 2 a.m. You could have rewatched this, by the way, because it does get uploaded onto the live tab and you can rewatch it. All right, guys, I don't feel harassed. It's fine. I answered the question. I wasn't bothered by it. It's fine, okay? Trust me, there are some things that people say in here that are unacceptable. My husband removes them. What was said was not unacceptable. It's okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about gardening. What time is it in my area? It is 4:48 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm scrolling through the comments, okay? That's what I'm doing. Okay, that's it. I'm going to call it there, guys. If you come up with a question or something like that, just send me an email at info@jarrahsgarden.com. Do not message me on social media. I am on Instagram. I am on TikTok. I'm on Pinterest, Facebook. I cannot keep up with that. I don't have a team of people. It's just me. So I cannot keep up with all the messages and stuff I get on those platforms. But if you send me an email, I know, because it says unread, and I know what I have to get through. So the only people that I do have help though. I can't do this all on my own. Managing 2 gardens, a nursery, this YouTube channel. I film everything myself. I used to be a video grapher and photographer for weddings, so that really trained me. That was my family business, my dad's business. That really trained me a lot for this stuff, and helped me get kind of a head start when it comes to making YouTube videos. But I don't have a team of people out here with a camera filming me or none of that. I do have my brother's girlfriend. She is like my part-time assistant, basically. She helps me pack orders because I cannot do that every day. It's a lot. So she does help with that, and she does help pack the seed packages as well. She helped me all day. Thursday, we were packaging up all the Seed Subscription Club deliveries. And my brother, he works in landscaping. So every now and then, if I need help, like let's say we're going to gut all this out or build something or whatever, he'll come help me. And I also have a video editor for my YouTube videos. And she also helps make sure that things are being posted to all my social media channels. because video editing takes longer than actually filming the stuff. It's very, very time consuming. And I have all these people help me because I also have a full-time job. I work at a pharmacy on top of this. And I'm not at a point where I feel comfortable like just quitting my full-time job. So without the help of all these people, I wouldn't be able to do all of this. So anyways, all right, I'm going to call it there. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. The next class will be April 19th, and that will be organic fertilizer practices. Basically, what do I do? What kind of fertilizers do I use based on the plant? Because it's very specific to what you're trying to grow and how you want to manipulate that particular crop. So yeah, that will be April 19th. I'm going to say bye. Have a great rest of your day, guys.